Episode 37. The Men Who Hunted the Hurting, Sowell and Rifkin. Some killers hide in the shadows. Some stalk the dark corners of cities. And some learn to blend into them. In Cleveland, Ohio, in New York, just outside the bright lights, two men moved silently among the most vulnerable women in their cities. Women battling addiction, poverty, trauma, and circumstances most people never cared to understand. For years, Anthony Sowell and Joel Rifkin hunted unnoticed. Two different cities, two different men, two different methods, but the same victims, the same disposability, the same silence. Tonight, we're stepping into two nightmares that ran parallel, stories soaked in neglect, addiction, poverty, and the terrifying truth that some monsters look like everyday men. This is Behind the Red Line, Episode 37, The Men Who Hunted the Hurting, Cleveland's East Side, 2007. A neighborhood mostly forgotten by the rest of the city. Boarded houses, abandoned lots, families trying to survive through unemployment, and a system that failed them long before the Strangler arrived. And on Imperial Avenue stood a 3-story house with peeling paint and a faint, foul odor drifting into the street. Neighbors assumed it was the sausage shop next door. Others thought it was the sewer system. Nobody imagined the truth. Inside that house, Anthony Sowell was hunting. Sowell targeted women who were already battling for survival. Women struggling with addiction. Women doing survival sex work. Women who didn't always have phones, cars, or family support. Women who could disappear without triggering an immediate investigation. He used alcohol, drugs, the promise of safety, a place to rest, a shower, a meal. He lured them in with basic human needs, things most people take for granted. And once inside, the nightmare began. The inside of Sowell's home wasn't just unclean, it was contaminated with death. When investigators finally entered, they found bodies in crawl spaces, bodies buried in the yard, bodies tucked into corners of the house, decomposed remains layered in trash and debris. The smell of decay soaked into walls and carpet. It wasn't just one body, or 2, or 5. They found 11 women who vanished from the neighborhood. 11 women no one connected, no one investigated deeply, no one seemed to tie together. The community called it the house that smelled. But the truth was far darker. Years before the bodies were discovered, women tried to report Sowell. One woman escaped half-dressed, running down the street screaming for help. Police assumed it was a dispute. No report was filed. Another woman told officers Sowell had attacked her inside the home. She was dismissed as unreliable because she was using drugs. A third woman filed a full report, and her case sat uninvestigated for months. Nobody connected the pattern. Nobody listened to the women, and that silence became Sowell's shield. It started with a missing woman who had recently been at Sowell's home. Police arrived for a wellness check. They walked through the house once and almost turned back, but the smell everyone had been ignoring, hit them like a wall. As they searched the home, officers froze. They found a skull, then bones, then a body, then another one nearby. Soon the entire property became one massive crime scene. 11 victims, one house, and years of ignored warnings. Sowell had once been a Marine, trained, disciplined, methodical. He knew how to keep a low profile. He knew how to bury, conceal, hide. He knew how to manipulate women who trusted him because they had nowhere else to go. He didn't stand out. He didn't brag. He didn't act suspicious. He counted on society not caring about the women he targeted. And for a long time, he was right. Now we shift to the opposite side of the country. New York, 1989. Joel Rifkin was quiet, awkward, invisible in crowds. The kind of man people overlooked in supermarkets and ignored at parties. But inside his mind, a storm had been building for years. And in 1989, Rifkin acted on it. Rifkin picked up a young sex worker named Heidi. He took her to his home, attacked her, and after she died, he panicked, then realized he enjoyed the process of concealing the crime. He dismembered her body in his mother's garage, put the remains in buckets, dumped them in different locations across New York. Her torso washed up in New Jersey. Her legs were found in the Bronx. Her head was found months later. Police never connected the pieces. By day, Rifkin was a landscaper, a handyman, a quiet son living with his mother. By night, he cruised Manhattan streets, especially the Lower East Side, looking for vulnerable women. Women in addiction. Women in survival sex work. Women with nowhere safer to go. Women society didn't look for fast enough. He killed 17 women, possibly more. He kept jewelry, clothing, and IDs of his victims in his bedroom like trophies. Police would eventually find bags and boxes of their belongings, stacked neatly, labeled and preserved. He had been collecting them like souvenirs. Rifkin was obsessed with disposal. how far he could transport bodies, how many pieces he could scatter, how long it would take for remains to be discovered. Some bodies were cut into sections, placed in the East River, weighed with cinder blocks, dumped near the Hamptons, left in Manhattan, dumpsters, buried in shallow graves. He changed his method constantly, making him nearly impossible to track. In 1993, police noticed a pickup truck without a license plate. The driver, Joel Rifkin. They tried to pull him over. Instead, Rifkin panicked and led officers on a short chase that ended when he crashed into a utility pole. When officers approached the truck, they smelled something. In the back was the body of his latest victim, Tiffany, a young woman he'd killed only hours earlier. Rifkin confessed instantly, calmly, methodically. He told detectives the names of dozens of women he had targeted. He remembered them all, by name, by face, by details no one else ever knew. 2 cities, 2 eras, 2 different men. But the pattern was identical. Victims on the margins, victims with addiction, victims doing survival sex work, victims society ignored, warnings dismissed, communities unheard, violence unchecked, killers enabled by neglect, not genius. Sowell hid them inside his home. Rifkin scattered them across state lines. But both killers thrived because their victims weren't protected. Monsters don't need masks. They need opportunity. And in Cleveland and in New York, opportunity came in the form of silence. Silence from authorities. Silence from communities overwhelmed by poverty. Silence from systems that failed the women long before the killers found them. Sowell made his house a tomb. Rifkin made the city a grave. But their victims were more than statistics. They were daughters, mothers, friends, survivors, fighters, women whose stories deserved urgency, respect, and justice. And tonight, we say their names by telling their stories. This is Behind the Red Line, Episode 37, The Men Who Hunted the Hurting.